Marco Rubio said yesterday that Israel, in a sense, dragged us into. Now he's saying that we thought Iran was going to attack us first, and the president says this as well. Is there any intelligence that Iran had been planning an attack?
Well, at this point, the Trump administration hasn't provided that evidence publicly to us, though there are these ongoing briefings on
20 minutes until the market open, equities. We
of those intelligence briefings about exactly what was the thrust of the U.S. starting.
We had a break-even set up along on gold pre-market, and then
to do what they are calling this preemptive defensive strike.
Now we're trying to
what the Secretary of State Marco Rubio
ride this bull train on the NASDAQ
so there's still
to go up.
That we need answered here, but Matt, one thing is for sure, this administration appears intent that they are going to continue and to sustain this military campaign until their objectives are achieved, and that's going to be something to watch really closely since you mentioned Capitol Hill, because while broadly Republicans have been supportive of the president's efforts, they're starting to hear some cautiousness when it comes to how long
another
this
break-even
military
here.
campaign could go on, and the fact that the administration hasn't ruled out putting American boots on the ground.
All right, Tyler, thanks very much. Bloomberg's Tyler Kendall there at the White House, and I want to get reaction in markets right now. Bloomberg macro strategist Michael Ball, he's here with us at the Bloomberg Invest Conference in downtown Manhattan. And let me first get your take on the turnaround in risk sentiment. I mean, clearly we weren't as worried by the end of yesterday's cash session as we were at the top of the session, but it seems today that a lot of investors are hoping for an off-ramp, not necessarily a Trump put here, but an end to this war before.
Okay, let's see what's going on with gold.
I think you guys were right to say these are flimsy. Yesterday it was somewhat flimsy as well. It's unclear what the mechanism will be for the insurance premiums to be covered, or even if we have the Navy assets to do this, but yet the market turned around just as oil did. And we saw that both across
NQ has just rotated back down.
Moving back into that 3-month range, which is a much more comfortable position when you're looking at the screens to see. Also, to your point, that some of these other stories, like the memory stock stories, have come back off, as we saw some dip buying. So the market's doing what it always does. It's going back and forth between greed and fear, and generally now leaning more into the greed side, and dips are being bought.
It's not just Iran, though. There are other things happening in the background. And Michael, I wonder what meets the bar of rising to the surface. Scott Bessent saying this morning that 15%
NQ has just hit the
EU says, no, we think we're exempt.
value area level. See if it can get back up.
It will again, and again, it all adds to this stagflationary war, and that's what this is all about. And this is why risk appetite now has hit another headwind. And effectively, what we're waiting to see is how this affects longer-term expectations, not only from Fed easing and other central banks, but the consumer. And it'll take time for that to hit the softer data. But as far as break-evens right now and what the market's telling us, yes, there's a little bit of a shock priced into pricing and to inflation, but longer out, it's still quite stable. And that's giving comfort to basically, again, the sentiment, which is coming
Do you see
back
some trap sellers here on gold? Looks like got liquidated here.
That the EU expects to be exempt from tariffs.
Should hold that level.
Well, exactly. A day after Sanchez says Spain is not going to allow the U.S. to use its resources in this war against Iran, it boggles the mind until you think about the inflation impact on the midterms, right? I mean, the Republicans can't really afford to have inflation going back up above 3% too high for too long, and so they may have to pull tariffs off the table.
I would also add that this 15% is temporary. It's only 150 days or whatever it is. And then they're exploring new sections to lean into. That's what they told us yesterday. They're doing a study now. But the market, 150 days, this is not something that we can really price that well because, again, we don't know what's coming next. And the
was the main supply.
Looks like NQ has swung back up on the value after pivoting off a value level. So gold might swing back, go back up here too, if we can stay above value here. And
continue to cover this
we need
story
to see if these sellers here are truly trapped or not.
Also is
It likes to grab this liquidity, but then
markets right now, as risk sentiment turns around,
we get some
18 minutes until
bullish price action. I'd like to see gold swing back up to get these liquidities up here. Here it is. We might have a buy entry here.
It's just so wild to look at the Kospi have its worst decline since 2001, to see European stocks sell off 3%, to see EM carry get crushed, and oil turns around, and U.S. stocks have even closed down 1% yesterday. It goes back to Solomon saying his surprise that we haven't seen more of a reaction in market.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is fairly surprising, but this is a market. These are investors who want to buy the dip. And I think the Kospi may be a special circumstance because of the amount of leverage. I'm not an expert on Korean investors, but I have been reading overnight that there's a ton of leverage in that market. But absolutely fascinating that people are waiting for a Trump vote where maybe there isn't one.
Yeah. Well, some of the other movers on our radar this morning, Bitcoin and crypto stocks, they're surging with that risk turnaround of 7.3% after Bitcoin took a hit yesterday.
LegalZoom was downgraded by Barclays as growth is expected to slow this year and AI risks to certain software stocks. Now we're going to talk a lot more about software throughout this program.
And one I don't think we're going to talk more about, but worth just bookmarking, Abercrombie shares rising as much as 6% when earnings came in line with estimates, but all of a sudden they sink 6% on lower and weakened guidance, or weaker than expected guidance rather.
And we have Blackstone.
Try one more here.
Supports the firm's flagship private credit fund, pitching in $150 million from their own wallets. We'll get the details next. This is Open Interest Live,
just below
Invest Conference in downtown Manhattan.
Below the value. Oh. Stop loss at the swing low here. Get something here. Target value area. Target this.
Welcome to Bloomberg This Weekend. I'm David Burr.
I'm Lisa Matei. And I'm Christina Raffini. We're tracking breaking news today from Wall Street to Washington. Let's start with your Steve Beckridge. We're talking how it's so far.
I hope that this will open up new markets and provide some additional liquidity.
Of course, now they're not competitive. We got a big week coming up in politics.
Earnings season's underway. We're going to get some key reports.
Everything you need to know before the markets open on Monday.
Introducing Bloomberg This Weekend, bringing a little Bloomberg into your weekend routine.
And I'm Jason Kelly, and we're back for another season of the Beat. African entrepreneurs who are changing the game on and off the field. Jerry Jones.
So gold swung back at value level and gave us a good entry. Broke even on that.
Get your fixed income fix. Watch Bloomberg Real Yield
T minus 10 minutes until the New York Open. Technically Chicago Open.